Hey Rayleigh, and anybody else watching, and welcome back to another message from your father. Today we are hopping into Ezekiel, and we're going to be looking at the first 4 chapters. Now, we've been talking about the fall of Jerusalem and the fall of God's people, and what we're going to be looking at in Ezekiel is, well, it's a couple different things, but it's all around that same era. So today we're going to be looking at Ezekiel's calling, we're going to be looking at some of the visions that he sees, and then the personification of the fall of Israel and all the things that seem very, very odd that Ezekiel acts out, yet all of the things are with a purpose pointing to what God is going to do to his people. So again, all of this in chapters 1 through 4. So Ezekiel 1. In the 13th year, in the 4th month, on the 5th day, while I was among the exiles by the Kibar River, the heavens were opened, and I saw visions of God. On the 5th of the month, it was the 5th year of the exile of King Jehoiachin, the word of the Lord came to Ezekiel the priest, the son of Buzi, by the Kibar River in the land of the Babylonians. There the hand of the Lord was upon him. I looked, and I saw a windstorm coming out of the north, an immense cloud with flashing, lightning, and surrounded by brilliant light. The center of the fire looked like glowing metal, and in the fire was what looked like 4 living creatures. In appearance, their form was that of a man, but each of them had 4 faces and 4 wings. Their legs were straight, their feet were like those of a calf, gleamed with burnished bronze. Under their wings, on the 4 sides, they had the hands of a man. All 4 of them had faces and wings, and their wings touched one another. Each one went straight ahead. They did not turn as they moved. Their faces looked like this. Each of the 4 had the face of a man, and on the right side each had the face of a lion, and on the left the face of an ox. Each also had the face of an eagle. Such were their faces. The wings were spread out upward. Each had 2 wings, one touching the wing of another creature on the other side, and 2 wings covering its body. Each one went straight ahead. Wherever the spirit would go, they would go, without turning as they went. The appearance of the living creatures was like burning coals, or fire, or like torches. Fire moved back and forth among the creatures. It was bright, and lightning flashed out of it. The creatures sped back and forth like flashes of lightning. As I looked at the living creatures, I saw a wheel on the ground beside each creature, with its 4 faces. This was the appearance and structure of the wheels. They sparkled like chrysolite, and all 4 looked alike. Each appeared to be made like a wheel intersecting a wheel. As they moved, they would go in any one of the 4 directions the creatures faced. The wheels did not turn about as the creatures went. Their rims were high and awesome, and all 4 rims were full of eyes all around. When the living creatures moved, the wheels beside them moved, and when the living creatures rose from the ground, the wheels also rose. Wherever the spirit would go, they would go, and the wheels would rise along with them, because the spirit of the living creatures was in the wheels. When the creatures moved, they also moved, and when the creatures stood still, they also stood still. And when the creatures rose from the ground, the wheels rose along with them, because the spirit of the living creatures was in the wheels. Spread out above, like the heads of the living creatures, was what looked like an expanse, sparkling like ice and awesome. Under the expanse, their wings were stretched out, one toward the other, and each had 2 wings covering its body. When the creatures moved, I heard a sound of their wings, like the roar of rushing waters, like the voice of the Almighty, like the tumult of an army. When they stood still, they lowered their wings. Then there came a voice from above, from above the expanse, over the heads as they stood with lowered wings. Above the expanse, over their heads, was what looked like a throne of sapphire, and high above, on the throne, was a figure like that of a man. I saw that from what appeared to be from his waist up, he looked like glowing metal, as if full of fire, and that was from there down he looked like fire, and brilliant light surrounded him, like the appearance of a rainbow in the clouds on a rainy day. So was the radiance around him. This was the appearance of the likeness of the glory of God. When I saw it, I fell face down, and I heard the voice of one speaking. Chapter 2. He said to me, Son of man, stand up on your feet, and I will speak to you. As he spoke, the Spirit came into me and raised me to my feet, and I heard him speaking to me. He said, Son of man, I am sending you to the Israelites, to a rebellious nation that has rebelled against me. They and their fathers have been in revolt against me to this very day. The people to whom I am sending you are obstinate and stubborn. Say to them, this is what the sovereign Lord says, and whether they listen or fail to listen, for they are a rebellious house, they will know that a prophet has been among them. And you, Son of man, do not be afraid of them or their words. Do not be afraid, though their briars and their briars and thorns are all around you, and they live among scorpions. Do not be afraid of what they say or terrified by them, though they are a rebellious house. You must speak my words to them, whether they listen or fail to listen, for they are rebellious. But you, Son of man, listen to what I say to you. Do not rebel like that rebellious house. Open your mouth and eat what I give you. Then I took and I saw I saw a hand stretched out to me. It was a scroll, which he unrolled before me. On both sides of it were written words of lament and mourning and woe. Chapter 3. And he said to me, Son of man, eat what is before you. Eat this scroll. Then go and speak to the house of Israel. So I opened my mouth, and he gave me the scroll to eat. Then he said to me, Son of man, eat this scroll I am giving you, and fill your stomach with it. So I ate it, and it tasted as sweet as honey in my mouth. He then said to me, Son of man, go now to the house of Israel, and speak my words to them. You are not being sent to a people of obscure speech and difficult language, but to the house of Israel, not to many peoples of obscure speech and difficult language, those whose words you cannot understand. Surely if I had sent you to them, they would have listened to you. But the house of Israel is not willing to listen to you, because they are not willing to listen to me. For the whole house of Israel is hardened and obstinate. But I will make you as unyielding and as hardened as they are. I will make your forehead like the hardest stone, harder than flint. Do not be afraid of them or terrified by them, though they are a rebellious house. And he said to me, Son of man, listen carefully and take heart to all the words I speak to you. Go now to your countrymen in exile and speak to them. Say to them, this is what the sovereign Lord says, whether they listen or fail to listen. Then the Spirit lifted me up, and I heard behind me a loud rumbling sound. May the glory of the Lord be praised in his dwelling place. The sound of the wings and the living creatures brushing against each other, and the sound of the wheels beside them. A loud rumbling sound. The Spirit then lifted me up and took me away, and I went in bitterness and in anger of my spirit, with the strong hand of the Lord upon me. I came to the exiles who lived at Tel Abib, near the Kibar River, and there, where they were living, I sat among them for 7 days, overwhelmed. At the end of 7 days, the word of the Lord came to me. Son of man, I have made you a watchman for the house of Israel. So hear the word that I speak and give them warning from me. When I say to a wicked man, you will surely die, and you do not warn him or speak out to dissuade him from his evil ways in order to save his life, that wicked man will die for his sin. But I will hold you accountable for his blood. But if you do warn the wicked man, and he does not turn from his wickedness or from his evil ways, he will die for his sin, but you will have saved yourself. Again, when a righteous man turns from his righteousness and does evil, I would put a stumbling block before him. He will die. Since you did not warn him, he will die for his sin. The righteous things he did will not be remembered, and I will hold you accountable for his blood. But if you do warn the righteous man not to sin, and he does not sin, he will surely live, because he took warning, and you will have saved yourself. The hand of the Lord was upon me there, and he said to me, Get up and go out to the plain, and there I will speak with you. So I got up and went out to the plain, and the glory of the Lord was standing there, like the glory I had seen by the Kibar River, and I fell face down. Then the Spirit came into me and raised me to my feet. He spoke to me and said, Go, shut yourself inside your house, and you, son of man, they will tie with ropes. You will be bound so that you cannot go out among the people. I will make your tongue stick to the roof of your mouth, so that you will be silent and unable to rebuke them, though they are a rebellious house. But when I speak to you, I will open your mouth, and you shall say to them, This is what the sovereign Lord says. Whoever will listen, let him listen, and whoever will refuse, let him refuse, for they are a rebellious house. Chapter 4. Now, son of man, take a clay tablet, and put it in front of you, and draw the city of Jerusalem on it. Then lay siege to it. Erect siege works against it, build a ramp against it, set up camps against it, and put a battering rams around it. Then take an iron pan, Place it as an iron wall between you and the city and turn your face towards it. It will be under siege, and you shall besiege it. This will be a sign to the house of Israel. Then lie on your left side and put the sin of the house of Israel upon yourself. You are to bear their sin for the number of days you lie on your side. I have assigned you the same number of days as the years of their sin. So, for 390 days, you will bear the sin of the house of Israel. After you have finished this, then lie down again, this time on your right side, and bear the sin of the house of Judah. I have assigned you 40 days, a day for each year. Turn your face towards the siege of Jerusalem, and with bared arm prophesy against her. I will tie you up with ropes so that you cannot turn from one side to the other until you have finished the days of your siege. Take wheat and barley, beans and lentils, millet and spilt. Put them in a storage jar and use them to make bread for yourself. You are to eat it during the 390 days you lie on your side. Weigh out 20 shekels of food to each day and eat it at set times. Also, measure out 1/6 of a hin of water and drink it at set times. Eat the food as you would a barley cake. Bake it in the sight of all the people, using human excrement for fuel. The Lord said, in this way, the people of Israel will eat defiled food among the nations where I send them. Then I said, not so, sovereign Lord. I've never defiled myself. From my youth until now, I've never eaten anything found dead or torn by wild animals. No unclean meat has ever entered my mouth. Very well, he said. I will let you bake your bread over cow manure instead of human excrement. Then he said to me, Son of man, I will cut off the supply of food in Jerusalem. The people will eat rationed food in anxiety and drink rationed water in despair, for food and water will be scarce. They will be appalled at the sight of each other and will waste away because of their sin. It's interesting. We see one of the hardest lives of a prophet in just laying completely still. And that sounds a little odd to say. What's so difficult about lying down? Well, I think that's purely in the amount of time he's doing it. I mean, he's laying down for these immense stretches of time to be a reminder to God's people that this is what I'm going to be doing. This is the manner in which I am going to punish you. You are not going to be doing anything. I have taken you captive through these other armies. And that looks really interesting. I mean, when we look at this, we see the suffering that requires of Ezekiel. And so that life, that warning that he is putting forth to the people, God has prescribed him. His life looks so different at that time to get the people's attention. And I mean, that's at least what it seems like, right? People are going to be walking by and they're going to see Ezekiel living this life that is so odd. He's just laying there for days and weeks and months on end. And then he switches to his other side and lays on his other side. And he's baking bread over cow manure and drinking little portioned bits of water. And that's going to look different. And he's doing that to get the attention of God's people. Again, that's what it seems like. And if that's the case, our lives should also look different. I mean, if people are at risk of having eternal punishment, unless we say something, unless we act as intercessor for them, then our lives should look a little bit different to warn them. And that may have to be very drastic, what God may do through us. And that doesn't mean it's going to be easy for us necessarily. But again, that's so incredibly important. My prayer for you, Rayleigh, is that when you see this, recognize that our life should probably look more like Ezekiel than a comfortable Christian living. I mean, it may not necessarily mean that you're lying on your side, but that service that you're providing for God and for God's people will probably often put you at detriment. And I think that's why it's important too that you have brothers and sisters in Christ that you can rely on, that you can keep going back to keep getting filled, because it would seem so easy to burn out or to lose hope. I mean, I'm sure Ezekiel felt like he had lost hope multiple times, but my prayer for you is that you persist in that and recognize that your life will and should look different. Anyway, know that I love you so, so much. And for anyone else joining, as always, I appreciate you so much, and I'll plan on seeing you tomorrow. Have a good one.